Champions. I'm Amy Morgan, the feature writer for the Marriage Initiative, and I am just delighted today to introduce Adelle and Travis Graham to you. The Grahams are founders of the Noble Marriage Ministry and are master mental health coaches, board certified through the American Association of Christian Counselors. They speak about how God restored their marriage after addiction, secrets, and betrayal nearly destroyed it. They share the transformational tools that healed their hearts and marriage as they speak, coach, lead intensives, and online courses for others. Travis and Adelle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for
Thank you
welcome
for
for
having
bringing us on. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for
Well, we are just really looking forward to hearing how you overcame challenges and now offer so much hope and help to others. I know our marriage champions are delighted to know this. So tell us, can you kind of tell us where you came from, what your story was, so we can get to know you?
Yeah, so we've been married 18 years now, and around I would say 2 years into our marriage, we really started struggling and really didn't know why. And we were really good at shoving things under the rug that really needed to be dealt with. And most of the time, we just had no idea what to do. And so we would avoid. And so, fast forward at 12 years into our marriage, a secret came out, betrayal happened in our marriage. And that led us down a path of healing that, one, we never anticipated going on. But it has been the best healing journey for both of us. Now we're at 6 years post finding that out. And because of what God has done in our story, He has just instilled a passion in us to help other marriages who are struggling out there. And I really see like all the things that God has allowed us to go through are just opportunities to reach more people.
Yeah. Well, and you guys had injuries, you had just wounds of the past, things that I think our marriage champions probably have faced in their own lives and then have helped couples through. I mean, no, everyone has life experiences that hold us back. And you learned, you guys were, though, you were very intentional about seeking help, right? I mean, I know, Travis, you had a real epiphany at a men's retreat, correct? Or is a hike?
I did in 2018. I was able to really see who Jesus was to me in a personal relationship. I've been in church my whole life. I have probably gone to accept salvation probably 50 times, mainly just not to go to hell. My faith was a faith really that my parents had and that I wanted, yet I just could not see how God would love someone like me. Um, and I want to also add into what Adele was saying about we have had a life of so many challenges, and you mentioned several. There's addictions, there's betrayal, trauma, past trauma that we work through. And then I know this video is going to go out to marriage helpers, marriage champions. And one of the verses that we love that I want to speak over you as well that we use is 2 Corinthians 1. And it's verses 3 through 5. And it talks about this comfort that God gives us in our troubles so that we can come along people and comfort them in the same comfort that we received when we were in trouble, when we were having our issues. And I just want to speak that over everybody listening today that, some people don't feel like they have the qualifications or I can't help somebody, but God will give you that same comfort to give to someone else. And we really like to give hope in hopeless times.
I love that. That is such a helpful verse. I think every one of our marriage champions, when you said that, most have probably heard that verse. And every one of us could probably picture a time where either we received that comfort from someone else or we gave that to someone else. I know I lost my mom 2 years ago, and some other friends have been, at ages and stages. Some other friends have since, and I've been able to do some of the things that ways God's comforted me. So I think that was a great reminder for our marriage champions. But let's talk about you. So you were on the church retreat and you were really invigorated to really kind of dive in with God. And Adelle, at that time too, you were kind of doing your own healing. You had had an injury, and both of you were kind of seeking how to overcome identity loss, things that you were wrapped up with in your businesses and your careers, all of a sudden kind of yanked the rug out from under you, and those weren't there anymore.
Yeah, I did. I was radically changed in 2018 for Jesus, and I have been ever since. And it has been my aim to really see who I am in this life. Because prior to 2018, I lost my job in law enforcement, and I felt like I completely lost my identity. And after 2018, I've been looking at, like, what is my purpose? What is my identity? What is my assignment? And I've been able to really discover that. And it's all listed right here in God's word. If I want to know what God's will is for my life, I must read what God's word says. And I'm able to see that my identity is in Him. I'm a child. And by the way, this is the same thing for you guys. Your identity is in Him. Genesis 1:26 and 27, Genesis 5:1. He says He made us in His image, that we are image bearers of God, that we are His children, that we are adopted into His family, and that we are joint heirs with Christ if we believe in Him, and we have the mind of Christ. And man, that is an amazing identity. And then I have a purpose. Jesus told some lawmakers, some Pharisee lawmakers, when they were trying to trap Him, to find out, like, what is the most important of 613 laws? Like, what's the most important? And He said, love God with everything you have, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And that is our purpose on this earth, is to be Jesus to others, and to love and to share the good news of the gospel with others. And then how do we do all those things? Like, how do we take our identity and our purpose and live it out into a life? And that is through an assignment. And the assignment is, it changes in seasons and stages, but your assignment is to take your purpose into whatever you do. Maybe your work, or maybe it's being a mom or a dad or a husband or a wife, or whatever it is. Your assignment is to fulfill that purpose.
And I was going to say, and we had that all backwards. We thought our assignment was our identity. And
Yes.
So when they got stripped away, it really wrecked us, where you're right, we were looking and seeking for, what does God have for us? Because this life is not fulfilling.
Yeah. And yet you turned to the right place. You turned to God. And as you realized too, that, your communication and your marriage was, there was so much distance and silence between you, just kind of from your habits from growing up, right? You talked about that. Maybe tell us, so for our marriage champions, they're dealing with couples that are struggling with these same issues. How did you overcome that? Because you did turn to the right place.
For us, I feel like God gave us a lot of opportunities to really get to the bottom of what was going on in our marriage, but we were just too self-consumed to really care or notice His signs. And it really took bringing both of us to our knees to get to the point where we were desperate for something else. And that's when the betrayal came out in end of 2018. And because really, for me, I was at my knees and at my wit's end, I started asking God, like, what do you have for me in this life? Because if it's more of this pain, I don't want it. And what we have seen just from working with other couples is all it takes for God to create a miracle in a relationship and even in our own lives is an open heart. And I'm so grateful I had an open heart. And that's where I really coach the wives that I work with. Is I see a lot of closed hearts because of the pain that comes with something as traumatic as betrayal in marriage. And if the heart is closed, it's a barrier for God to really be able to work. And so that's what I would say is for the couples that are going through betrayal, like they really need a step-by-step guide. But more than that, they need an open heart, because God can just work with, he can do anything with an open heart.
Well, when you talk about a step-by-step guide, that's one of the things that you offer. But I remember you said you started going to marriage intensives and marriage classes and retreats, and you got to sit with Gary Chapman.
Yes.
Personally, I'm so jealous. I've spoken with him via this platform, but never personally. And he actually told you what you needed to do to forgive.
Mm.
Yes, and it changed my life and my whole outlook. I thought forgiveness was to be earned.
Yeah.
And he reframed my thought process on forgiveness, that I have been freely forgiven. And it is, I mean, Jesus died on the cross so that I can be forgiven. And there's grace, and I had none of that. And that's when he said, like, you're never going to feel like forgiving. And if you wait on your feelings, you'll never forgive. You have to make a choice, and eventually your feelings will follow. And it empowered me to release the debt that I had over him, that he had to do. Like, I had a long list of how he was going to earn it back. That's like, I think I had it confused with earning trust versus earning forgiveness.
Yeah.
And they're very different. And so I made a choice, and my feelings didn't follow for a really long time. But I remember the moment looking back, realizing all of a sudden I felt forgiving. And it was a choice that I had to make literally every time the enemy would bring it up in my mind, because it was so much of an inner battle, specifically in my thoughts, and how the enemy would try to attack me and trap me back in the betrayal. So every time that happened, it was another choice to forgive. And eventually I felt forgiving.
Well, and then by 2019, you both felt this amazing call from the Lord to start offering what you had learned to others. You'd really learned, and you learned too how to argue constructively. I remember you talking about how, like, all of a sudden you came home and you had an argument that ended well.
You don't know how great that is until you've had so many arguments that don't end well, you know? And then when they do, when we finally are like, oh, I felt listened to, I felt like important in that conversation. Man, that's so valuable to be able to do that. And we were able to use those tools to be able to create a safe space for each other, emotionally safe, where, you know, who knew there was in communication, there is a speaker and a listener. We've always had speaker and a speaker in waiting.
I love that.
You know, we just learn new ways to create an emotionally safe place, you know, how to be curious versus judgmental, how to have a good set and setting in the conversation. You know, there's a right timing to have conversations, and there's a wrong timing.
And I think even more than that, we were taking personal responsibility for, I bring the things that I show up with, like all the things that are in my heart, I show up with that. And so it's only me that can take care of that. It's no longer a blaming issue. And so when we get into an argument, I'm able to see, oh, I have something going on in my heart. That's for me to go take care of, and then come back and communicate well about what I experience. And there's intimacy on the other side of every disagreement. And I think that's exactly how God designed it to be. But most couples, we have found, have no idea how to create an emotionally safe place to share to begin with, or how to be personally responsible for their own hearts. So that's just fueled us even more that, wow, couples really need this.
Yeah. You used the phrase several times when we talked, and also all over your website and in your work, a whole and complete person. Could you explain that? I know, Travis, that's especially, I think, one of your favorites. Could you explain what that means? Because that's a concept that
Mhm.
finds its way through a lot of your resources.
It is, and I think it's a really amazing concept because let's just go back to Genesis. We talked about Genesis 1:26 and 27, Genesis 5:1. We are made in God's image. Um, we are whole and complete individuals made in His image. However, there was a fall in Genesis 3. There was sin that entered. There was fear that entered. There was what we call thorns that entered, these emotions that we just don't process as kids. And, whenever that happens, it has an impact on us. And so we are whole and complete individuals made in God's image. However, when those thorns happen, I have these deep feelings sometimes like I'm not good enough. People judge me. I'm not worthy. I'm unloved. I'm a failure. Those come on me sometimes. And when they do, I'm no longer this whole and complete individual. I'm half of a person. And then when I go into this relationship as half of a person, I'm expecting her to complete me in some way. Whereas,
And what he means by that is if he's feeling not good enough, he expects me to make him feel good enough.
yeah, that's good.
That's the incompleteness.
That's good. Instead, what we are to do is go back to the source, reestablish our vertical relationship with God. He is the only person that's going to complete me because me and 8 billion other people, we feel incomplete and we look to complete us all out here. That's the reason we do all the junk we do that the Apostle Paul talks about in Romans 7. I know what to do, and yet I keep doing the wrong thing. What's wrong with me? That's it. Is out here, we're trying to fill it, but I need to get that vertical relationship with Him, realize I'm whole and complete, and then in this relationship, we complement each other rather than trying to complete each other.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you. You explained that beautifully, and that shows up. So let's talk about your resources. 2019, you started writing your first kind of a course that you went through with couples in your church, and that has blossomed. So tell us to what you do.
Okay, so our passion is to work with couples in crisis. And the course you were just referring to has turned into our intensive program that we put couples through in a weekend. And it is transformative. But the reason it's transformative, what we have found is that if someone is having an encounter with the Lord and He rescues their heart, their spirit is instantly transformed. And then there's the soul and the body that has to be sanctified and reprogrammed. And so with our own healing, what we saw is, yes, we were transformed because of the knowledge that we received at our intensive. It was amazing. It was brand new. And our patterns, our reactions to these emotions are so strong. It actually takes a lot of work to reprogram that in our lives. And so through the discovery, what we found is that there are 6 levels that the enemy tries to deceive us. And just a few of those are like our emotions in our heart, our thoughts in our head, our actual reactions that come out of pain. Those are all deceptions where there are blind spots from the enemy that he writes lies on our heart. And then we live not knowing that those things are true. Yeah. And so in the programs that we've developed, we help people get spiritual, emotional, and body freedom in their life, which that's why it's transformational. And it's been amazing to be a part of because we've experienced it. But then to see people actually experiencing it on the other side of us and in our programs has been absolutely life-giving, and it's redeemed like everything that we've been through over and over and over again. It's been so rewarding.
Oh, and you actually do invite couples physically into your home in the weekend and do that. Now, for those that can't travel to the East Coast and the lovely South, you also offer things online, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, we have an entire marriage academy online with multiple courses. And one of the ones is the Becoming Whole and Complete. And one of my favorites is the Walking Through Betrayal
Yeah.
course or program that we have.
Yeah, so it is a step-by-step guide, because what we found is if we would have had someone hand holding us through that process, we would have had a much better healing journey, because it's just all over the place.
Yeah.
And so this is a step-by-step guide where the couples, rather than getting separate healing from different therapists or different entities, they are doing it together, and they're able to see each other's pain and what they're going through, so that they can start to have empathy and compassion for one another, rather than going and getting healing separate can kind of sometimes divide the couple in a way. And so it also offers great little short prayers at the end for people who are just developing their relationship with God and don't know how to pray. We wanted to provide like a resource to be able to know where to start with the Lord, especially when I'm in such immense pain.
Yeah.
And so we've had quite a few couples go through that. And again, that's just been so rewarding to hear the feedback that this is life changing for them to have something to lean on, to know what they're going through, because it is just such uncharted waters.
And you'll walk through couples with that too, correct? With
Yes.
coaching, whether they need that. I know when I was on your website, that was the first thing that pops right up. You have several great little resources there that are just, free and ready. And then, give a taste of what you offer for our marriage champions and ways to direct couples there, and then to dive deeper. So when you're leading people, like let's say if they're not near you, but you can do that online, or you can do that through coaching like a Zoom call, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the coaching we do through the Zoom calls, and then the online academy, they can do at their own convenience and their own time. And we also, for the marriage helpers out there, if anyone needs scholarships for any of our programs, please, you're welcome to have those.
Yeah, God is our provider. We just believe in getting this content out because we've seen what it can do. And now it's helping couples in this particular crisis that they're going through.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned God being your provider, because in 2021, you took a leap of faith and closed all your other businesses. And this is what you do full time now, correct?
Yes.
Yes, and we love it. And he has provided. Adele taught me this equation from the story of Abraham and Isaac. And that is a great math equation. Faith plus obedience always equals provision. And provision or payday comes in many different ways. It's not always financial, but man, he has really shown up in our lives and he has provided. We have not needed a thing.
Yeah, it's been such a blessing.
That is such an inspiration. Oh, I love that. And let's go back to your resources, because as we talked about your coaching and your intensives, you had mentioned the Whole and Complete, but you have a communication program as well, too?
Yes, we have, it's called a heart-to-heart communication. And it is specifically to help couples work through their communication struggles. Like we said earlier, most couples don't know how to have an emotional safe haven in their relationship. And so we start with that foundation first. And then we move into how do we communicate about the hard things, and even going into what if we're on separate pages? How do we get on the same page and move forward together so that the enemy doesn't divide us over little small things? And it's a mini course, so it's only 5 sessions, which is a great, easy digest for couples to go through. And it really helps with communication.
I want to add more in there. It also goes into, there's 3 ways that we have head-to-head knowledge with each other, and there's 3 ways we have heart-to-heart conversations with each other, and we teach you how to do those 6 different ways. And then the emotional safety. I think the 10 ways to create emotional safety, a safe haven in a marriage, that's one of my favorites as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's great for communication.
Oh, and you also have more than 200 YouTube shows, something like this, except not an interview where you go into all of these different tools and processes, correct?
Oh yes, I don't know how many videos are on there, but it's a good bit, and lots of interviews, lots of course material like this, or like we were teaching.
What we're doing right now is we have a podcast that we just started, and we have written a book. It's not been published yet. We're in the process of finding a publisher. But through the book, we use like all of the content that the Lord gave us. We show how it works through a real life example so that people can apply it to their own life. And so our podcast right now has started at the beginning of the book, and it is building momentum as we go through, where we're just starting to get to the part about our hearts and how our hearts are impacted by wounds from our past. And the comments that are coming in of what people are getting from it is incredible, because we feel like we're not the ones doing this. We just feel like we are vessels right now. And so to hear what people are saying, it's mind-blowing to us, really.
Well, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, and that that your book is forthcoming, because I know, some people like to watch things, some people like to listen to things, some people like to read things. So I know we will be looking forward to that. I know too, your entire story is available as a YouTube too, that they can watch if they want to know more about the struggles you overcame and how you did that. One of the things, as we talked about that, has drifted into some of your content too. You have another course, don't you, that kind of prepares someone to get ready to have an open heart to then start working through the betrayal, kind of a pre-course. That's the first time I've ever heard of a pre-course.
So it is becoming whole and complete. And what you're referring to is when we have a couple who's coming for an intensive, we have found that they really need individual work first before we can work on the marriage. And so they go through the becoming whole and complete with us as their coach, monitoring their progress and communicating back and forth.
Yes.
And so leading up to the intensive, by the time they're here, they are actually ready to work on the marriage and they're open to their spouse again and all of those great things. And so we've just seen a huge value in preparing them in advance before they show up. And that's how God can do his best work.
Can I share how
Please.
I think the best way they get prepared in advance is to learn personal responsibility. Personal responsibility. That means I am responsible for my heart, my actions, my thoughts, my reactions, my behavior, and you are not responsible for any of that. Now that is a challenge, Amy, because of Genesis 3.
Yeah.
Whenever Adam and Eve sinned, and whenever they went into the garden to hide, God came after them. By the way, God is always pursuing every one of us. God came after them, and then he asked them some questions. He said, Adam, what happened? And he says, that woman that you gave me made me do it. And then went to Eve. What happened? That serpent made me do it. And we've been doing that ever since. As we push our responsibility out, it leaves us helpless and powerless. It leaves us unable to have healing. It makes other people the problem and the solution. And I have zero power. And so when we really get people to have personal responsibility, then they can come into to work on their marriage and get lasting healing in their marriage.
Yeah.
I love it. And then kind of as a follow-up, and something our marriage champions might be interested in, is your monthly call-in program. Let's talk about that really quickly, because I think some of our marriage champions might want to even just jump into that just to see what that's like.
So this is, that would be great. So this is brand new. We feel like this was born out of, we recognize that even after the intensive, there's still aftercare that's needed. While they're doing great, they still hit hiccups and bumps in the road. And so we started these group coaching calls, And what we found is the couples are loving that they are on the call with other couples who are going through the same thing they are. Because of this call, it's all people who have been through betrayal. And so when they are able to see, oh, wow, someone else has been through this and they are feeling the same way I'm feeling, they are getting healing through that. And as well as each couple that we coach, other couples are either going to experience that or already have, or they're going through it right then. And so they are getting more coaching than if we were just doing a one-on-one coaching session with them. And we're able to offer that at a low rate for couples who really can't afford an intensive. And so we're opening it up. It started off as that, but now we're opening it up to the public where any couple who would like to join will be able to do that at a low monthly rate, where maybe they can't get counseling or therapy or who knows. So we're just really excited to see the possibilities that are going to come out of that.
Oh, yeah. I think that could be so positive to see, to normalize that they're not alone.
Yes.
And then the benefit from hearing, the experiences of others. Oh, well, gosh, Adelle and Travis, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
It has been an honor. Thank you for letting us be here. And I'm just so grateful that this is going out to marriage champions. I just pray that you as a marriage champion, that God will use you to give someone hope in hopelessness, because I was there and I needed it, and somebody let me borrow their hope, and man, it was valuable to me. So I just pray that over each one of you in Jesus' name.
And I agree.
I was just going to say, I am just so grateful to be surrounded with other marriage champions, because being in other industries, there is no collaboration. And entering into doing God's work is just a whole different experience, where we have felt surrounded, we have felt embraced, we have felt uplifted, and the people watching this are probably some of the people that have been a part of that. And so it's just, we are so grateful. Yeah. And it's been such a blessing to us to have other champions surrounding us and all of us in this ministry. So I just wanted to say that.
Oh, that's a beautiful testimony. And I'm sure a lot of our marriage champions feel the same and are grateful for you.
Thanks.
As always, marriage champions, if you'd like to learn more about the noble marriage in Travis and Adelle, you can find us at marriageinitiative.org and marriageresources.org.